You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Hello and welcome back to another podcast at The Outdoors Station. And here we are recording this programme on a beautiful early spring day. It's early March, the sun is pouring through the windows, the sky is blue, there's a definite chill to the air, and already the evenings are starting to get lighter, which inspires me to get out and about and enjoy a nice walk watching the sun go down, and I hope it does for you as well. Now, with that in mind, obviously I've decided that the theme of these next few podcasts should be getting out and about, and especially keeping one eye very close on the financial situation. So we want to get out and see what's going on, or having inspiration of where we could go without it costing us a fortune. With that in mind, Andy and I have been preparing for these podcasts by going out to various shows recently, up at the NEC, the Destination Show, which was quite interesting, the Caravan and Camping Show, and the Focus Camera Show. We're also going off very shortly at the end of March on the 27th to 29th to the Outdoor Show up at the NEC. And as a matter of interest, we've also got some tickets you can win in a free-to-rent competition at the end of the podcast, so make sure you stay listening to that. So what's the thing? Well, we sat and had a thought, really, that we're all in the same boat at the moment. We're all counting the pennies, and it starts to make you look a little more closely at some of the other options, in particularly those involving self-powered travel, so be it cycling or walking or whatever, and to see what actually is available and isn't too expensive to get out and enjoy. So that's what these podcasts are all about, inspirations and ideas. And, of course, once you get there, it's also nice to know what you can get up to in the nicest possible way. In my case, it might be just collapse and sleep, because there seems to be an awful lot going on at the moment. But anyway, so what do we do in this podcast? Well, in this podcast, we visit France and have a chat with someone who tells us about one of the most unknown, I'd not heard about it before, but I'm fascinated, GR34s, which is obviously the Grande Randonnée in France, and I think you'll enjoy hearing about this one. It certainly got it whetted my appetite, thinking, actually, yeah, I could nip across and do that. And then we also talk to somebody who's well known in the blogosphere, an award-winning landscape photographer, Steve Walton, for some tips about what to do once you arrive at your destination, and obviously how to get the best out of your camera to record your trip. But first, let's try for somewhere a little bit closer to home. The Isle of Wight has a very famous and rapidly growing walking festival on the 9th to the 24th of May, and you've probably read about this in many of the magazines. It gets dotted around all over the place. Promotion is actually very extensive, and also online. Now, Liz Walker is the Tourism Development Officer, and with finances in mind, I thought I'd start by asking her just how much it costs to get across to the Isle of Wight and what you can do once you get there.
Well, it varies. If you come on foot, you're looking at about £15 return per person, starting from. And if you're bringing your caravan, there are special deals at the moment with one of the ferry companies, where you get a 5-day break for your caravan, your pitch and your ferry travel for £104.
Now, describe to me, because I've never really considered the Isle of Wight as a destination for sort of walking and sort of general activities. What's the actual terrain like? What's the place like?
Well, it's quite a varied terrain, and we have actually been developing the Isle of Wight for more facilities for walkers now for some years. And we've now got over 500 miles of well-maintained and signposted footpaths. We've had a walking festival now that's been going for a number of years. In fact, it's in its 11th year this year. And with over 300 walks over 16 days. It's one of the biggest in the UK.
Well, certainly the prominence of the advertising and awareness of the walking festival is getting very well known. I've seen it cropping up everywhere, so congratulations, you're obviously doing your job. And I understand they have a whole variety of walks, not just sort of a typical walk, but there's different types of walk for different types of people with different types of interests.
Absolutely. As I say, during those 16 days we have over 300 walks, and they vary from walks with children where they can go fossil hunting and identifying local flowers and all sorts of things like that, to the more quirky walks. For example, we have a speed dating walk, which over the last few years has actually produced 3 happy couples who have subsequently got married, which is quite something.
I think that's a lovely idea, speed date. So what's the actual format of a speed dating walk? I've got this idea of people rushing from A to B.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't actually know a huge amount of details, although in a couple of weeks' time I will do, because I'm actually going on it this year as one of the operators, not as a speed dater, I hasten to add. But I think essentially people just register for the walk, so we know more or less who's coming. We try and ensure that there's an even distribution of males and females, obviously. And we set off across the moors, and hopefully with some, happy results. Yeah.
Excellent, what a lovely idea. Now, tell me, just before we move on from that, what is the date of the Walking Festival and the website for it?
The date of the Walking Festival is the 9th to the 24th of May, and the website is www.isleofwightwalkingfestival.co.uk.
You've obviously got a lot of coastline all the way around the outside of the island, naturally. Can you actually access all the coastline?
Yes, we actually have a long walk which is all around the coast. It's 67 miles long, so if you're feeling energetic, that's one well worth trying. It's very popular because along the way there are lots of B&Bs and places for people to stop, so they tend to do it over a few days, obviously, rather than try it all at once. Yeah.
So that would make quite a nice week's break, wouldn't it, if you actually went over and wanted to have a nice coastal walk and camp presumably on the way. Very affordable and probably a very enjoyable few days.
It would be absolutely perfect, yes, especially during the spring perhaps, or at either side of the main period, because obviously the routes will be very quiet then, and our spring weather and autumn weather is perfect. You don't get overheated, you can walk throughout the day, you don't have to stop at certain periods, and it's perfect for that.
Now, as we were talking just before we started this, you actually attend quite a lot of shows in your role for the Isle of Wight tourism, obviously. Have you noticed in the last sort of 6 months, looking forward now to 2009, any change in people's desires as regards what type of thing they're looking for from a destination?
Well, absolutely. I think most tourism destinations will have expected or hoped for this year that people in the UK were going to be staying in the UK because of the exchange rate and so on. And if all the enthusiasm which I've seen at the shows we've been to translates into bookings, then we are certainly in for a very good year. That's,
Very buoyant, yeah, that's good news.
Yes.
And do you find, has the profile of the people showing interest in you at the shows changed at all? Have they got younger? Is there more family-based? Or are they more retired people?
I would say that they are getting younger, because as our island gets more well known for the extreme sports, we do have surfing, paragliding and all a number of things which generally the younger crowd like to do. And it's really developing, of course, with the festivals. We have the festival in September. In June we have the Isle of Wight Festival. And it does, of course, attract a variety of people, which perhaps it has a tradition of being viewed as an old people's place, elder people's place, but that's certainly not the case anymore, no.
And you can find out more about the Isle of Wight and the Isle of Wight Walking Festival at www.iow.gov.uk. And I'm fascinated by that. I think everybody is, about speed dating and walking. What a great hobby. Anyway, let's move on to Andy. And we went to the Focus show, as I mentioned earlier on, and Andy spoke to keen outdoor enthusiast and blogger Steve Walton, who is also a master photographer, a 3-time winner of the Landscape and Travel Photographer of the Year title. Andy talks to Steve about how he combines the profession of photography with his love of the outdoors.
Now, as I stumble around this show, I've come across a fellow outdoor blogger, but not ordinary blogger. Steve Walton is a master photographer. Indeed, I found him on the Master Photographers Association stand. Steve, welcome.
Thank you very much, Andy. It's nice to see you.
Now, your day job involves a lot of high-quality wedding photography, but your passion is the outdoors, and you like to get outdoors as much as you can. And some of the stuff that's on your blog, and we'll give people the details in a minute, is stunning. And you've won the Landscape Photography of the Year award 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years, haven't you?
Since 2004, yes, I've won the category outright 3 times, and I was runner-up at last year's awards. That was in October last year in Newcastle. That's the British Professional Photography Awards.
And how easy is it to combine these two loves, really? Do you get outside very often?
Well, it's actually quite easy because I'm self-employed, so I make the decision as to when I get out and when I stay in the office, as long as I keep my clients happy in other areas of the business, and I can get out as often as I possibly can. So.
And are you walking with a camera, or are you walking to get a particular shot, or a combination of both?
It's probably very much biased towards either commission work or trying to get a particular shot that I'm looking for myself. Photography I started with a long time ago. It was mainly my sort of outdoor activities that got me involved in photography, where at that point the actual outdoor activity was more important than the photography. But as my lifestyle changed, my career changed, and my photography business grew, obviously the photography takes precedence. I need to sell my images to eat, basically.
Where were your favourite stamping grounds, Steve?
Oh, anywhere in the UK. I mean, we've travelled extensively abroad, but the UK really is my passion. Anywhere, really. England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, wherever.
Because we've got such a fantastic range of landscapes.
A wonderful, diverse range of landscapes. We have fantastically changing light that I can work with. Weather conditions that change by the minute. It's all part of the mix for me, which makes photographing in the UK such a wonderful experience.
One of the greatest bits of advice I ever had, I remember when I was getting into photography as a young kid, was if you want really good photographs, look for a day with sunshine and showers. It really does make a difference, doesn't it? If you're going out shooting early in the morning, in the evening, or in those kind of mixed weather conditions.
Absolutely. Anybody who's a keen photographer will know about the golden hours, just prior and just after sunrise and just before sunset. They're the sort of main working times for the keen landscape photographer. But one of the key ingredients for a nice landscape image really is sky detail. We do tend to suffer in the UK with white overcast sky. That's something that we need to avoid if we were looking for serious landscape photography. But we have a lot of options, really. We live in a very varied climate, and things do change very rapidly.
So what kind of gear are you taking out on the hills? I mean, are you literally weighed down with a rucksack full of camera gear, or are you able to keep it reasonably light?
It depends on what I'm doing and what I'm shooting for. Some of my camera gear is extremely heavy. I have a range of cameras. I actually still shoot film for my landscape work, although other parts of our business has been fully digital since 2001. All of my landscape work is film. And I shoot a variety of formats, really from even 35mm. But I do have a bit of a niche area with 6x17, which is a 3:1 panoramic landscape format that I use. I use a Fuji GX617 plus the whole range of lenses to go with that. I use 6x9 format, 2¼ square, 6x7, and even Hasselblad X-Band we've got as well that I use periodically. So, in answer to your original question, my equipment tends to be quite heavy. I recently went up to the Lake District a couple of weeks ago during the period when we had all the snow, and I was carrying the 617 with a couple of lenses, and also I actually took a Nikon D3X with me with the 14-24 lens. So that was quite a hefty weight to lug up across Striding Edge.
It's a reminder, of course, that film isn't quite dead yet. I mean, we tend to overlook it with all of the digital stuff, but film's still giving you the best quality you can buy.
Yeah, I mean, to get the best from it, you need good quality lenses, and you need good quality scanning as well. I mean, I've invested a lot of money in my equipment. But for me, I will stick with film for some considerable time. It's not dead, it's far from dead, and it's good enough really to continue for quite some time. The only drawback really is processing costs are rising and film costs are rising. For instance, with the 617, I get 4 exposures on a 120 roll, and obviously once I've bracketed either side of that, I'm looking really to probably get a couple of usable shots per roll. Now bear in mind that a roll of 120 velvet costs around £2, and you're looking at anything from between £3.50 to £5 processing fees. I've really got to sell those images to make it pay. It's becoming quite expensive now.
And once you've taken the photograph, I mean, I think a lot of people are interested in the processing side of it, particularly digital now. I mean, if you're working on film, are you then post-processing after you've scanned it in, or are you just relying on a straight shot?
I do a lot of post-processing. I shoot everything on Velvia. That's my standard film stock, either 50 or 100 ASA Velvia. Because once the image is captured, everything from there on really is a digital workflow. So conversions to black and white or whatever I want to do with the image is obviously taken in Photoshop post-scan, and then I work on the images from there. So yes, there is quite a fair bit of post-processing involved. Now the upside of that for me is that I don't have to worry about carrying filters, for instance. I very rarely use a graduated grey for the sky. I don't need to. I can use other techniques in Photoshop to achieve the same thing, and the benefit, of course, is cutting down on the weight that I'm lugging up the hill.
If you've been out in the Lake District for a few days, and I don't know, camping high or getting up early or whatever you do to get those golden hour shots, I mean, how long are you working on a photograph when you get back? Because people that look at your hard light blog will see some stunning photographs on that, and you look at them and think, just from my own experience of messing around on Photoshop, there's some real work gone into that.
Well, you've got to achieve the image. I mean, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. I mean, if you're trying to do that, then I would suggest it's the wrong approach. You've really got to create the image in the camera and use Photoshop really as a means to achieve the final image that you're looking for. I'm not a great one for effects for the sake of effects, and I never use Photoshop filters, ever. That's something I'm just not interested in. I know a lot of people do, they probably do it to great effect. But for me, photography is a business as well as a passion, and I need to be able to sell my images and obviously make a living from them.
And as sharp and as straight as they are, that's still giving you the best reproduction, I guess.
Yes, it is, yeah. I do use a Ricoh GRD2, which is a fantastic little notebook camera. In fact, believe it or not, now it's in my pocket. Very rarely without that little camera. It's something I will take along. If I'm just carrying the 617, I will always have the Ricoh GRD2 with me, and I always use it with the wide-angle converter. I use that very much as a notebook camera. A lot of the images on my blog are actually taken with that little camera. And I've even had images published from that. So you don't have to spend a fortune on expensive equipment, expensive heavy equipment. You can achieve good results with
one of the things I'm a bit disappointed about is that I was hoping we'd catch some of the new small cameras that are designed with an inbuilt wide angle, because the quality of these is rising all the time, isn't it? If you're on a long hike or backpack, you probably don't want to cart a heavy digital SLR everywhere. But the quality of these small compacts is getting better and better.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's only been within the last couple of years that we've seen cameras like the first generation of the Ricoh GRD with its converter came through. The much talked about Sigma DP1 is a moderate wide angle, and there are other ones as well, the sort of Leicas and the Lumix range of cameras, and the results that we're getting from these things are absolutely superb.
And some of them, you're looking at a kind of 24mm equivalent of a 35mm wide angle down to f2 or something.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Very usable cameras. Steve, thanks for talking to us. Now, your blog, in fact, I think it's safe to say there's a little family of websites associated with it. If people want to have a look at some of your photographs, where do they go?
Well, my blog is www.lordofthecrinkles.blogspot.com.
Lord of the Crinkles. And on there you'll find some of those stunning landscape images we're talking about, and some of those that have won the awards.
Yeah, there's some stuff on there that I hope people find some interest in what I put on there. My ramblings in both verbally and visually. I hope people find something of interest there.
Well, I'm sure they will. Well, I know I have. I mean, not only have you got the stunning photographs, but you've got the story about how you took them as well, and the trips, and fascinating stuff, I think.
Yeah, well, it's something that I'd like to develop my blog. I started it a couple of years ago, and it kind of lay dormant because other things got in the way, and business and everything else. But recently I've revitalised it, and I will be putting more tips, technical tips and equipment reviews and stuff like that on the blog. Anything that's of any interest to people, if they want to just drop in and have a look, fine. It's great.
But I think there's a bit of a market for something that explains in very ordinary language just how you do it. How do you get up into the hills? What time do you have to get up? How cold was it? How you use your equipment and keep your equipment going in those kind of conditions. Because obviously a lot of the really top landscape photographers tend to keep a bit of mystique about it all.
I don't think there's any great mystique about it. It's really it boils down to experience, and experience means a lot of footwork, a lot of expense initially, possibly, depending on how far you want to take it. But there is no real substitute for experience, and there is no mystique, really, in my opinion. There's some fantastic instructional books out there, and it's really a case of finding somebody whose work inspires you, not necessarily to copy it, but to analyse it and see how they've approached things, and then develop your own style from there.
And then get out and take as many photographs as you can. I mean, that's still the best advice to give anybody, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, getting out is the main thing. Most of us are in day jobs that we'd rather be doing something else. I treat my business very much as a vehicle to allow me to have the lifestyle that I want to have. It's something I aspired to a long time ago and worked very hard to get there, and I do tend to make the most of it whenever I can.
Well, that's one of the great things about photography. You can always combine it with other interests, and the great outdoors is no different. But certainly it helps if you get out and shoot those film and think about it. And anybody that really wants to understand a little bit more about technique and getting out into the hills, it's Lord of the Crinkles.
That's right, Lord of the Crinkles.
I'm not going to ask you where that came from, but it's Steve Walton, Lord of the Crinkles. Put that into Google and you'll find your way to Steve's site. It's certainly fantastic, and landscape photographer of the year 3 times in the last 4 years, and runner-up this year.
I was runner-up in October, so yeah, four times I've been in the final, so and won it 3.
And if you want to see some of Steve's work, I'll just repeat those websites again. His professional blog site is stevewaltonphotography.wordpress.com, and his walking blog is lordofthecrinkles.blogspot.com, and both of which contain some very, very inspirational and superb photography. And you can see very much why he is a continual winner of the Landscape and Travel Photographer of the Year title. Well deserved. Well done, Steve. Now, let us move across to France, and to Brittany, in fact. France, as we know, is only a few hours away, and is famous for generous people, wonderful countryside, fantastic walking, excellent wine, and superb cheese. Plus all the other things, of course. And we all fall into the same trap of getting across the channel and then driving hell for leather to get wherever we're going, down on the south coast perhaps, or down in the central France. However, Brittany has a lot to offer, and although I've been there a few times myself, mainly beach holidays and gîte holidays, I will admit, I hadn't really considered it as a destination for a GR route. And it does have its own route, the GR34, which Jacqueline Pirot from Brittany Tourism will explain shortly. So I first started off by asking her, here I am, I'm a self-powered traveller, I've just got on the ferry in Portsmouth there, what can I do once I arrive in Brittany?
Well, they can go along the coast if they want to, or see little villages. We've got a lot of small towns of character, some city of arts in Brittany, and they can walk along and discover the place. And we've got a lot of footpaths and cycling paths as well.
Okay, well, let's actually talk about detail. So, first of all, do you have a coastal path that goes all the way around the outside of Brittany?
Yes, we do. We have the GR, which is Grande Randonnée, GR 34. It goes all the way in Brittany, and it's about 1,800 kilometers, so it's quite a long way to go.
Okay, and I presume it's sort of fairly well marked and so on?
Yes, it is very well signposted, yeah.
And on the coastline, I've often seen more commercial campsites. Are there many smaller campsites for sort of backpackers and cyclists?
Yes, we do have a number of small sites that take about 5 or 6 pitches only, or you can have your own tent. We've got the farmhouses sites as well, and I've got a list of those, yes, at the Brittany Tourist Board.
We'll mention the website so people know where to look when they get to the end of this. But in Brittany itself, you've got the coastal path, but do you have many other paths across Brittany? And what's the general law to land access?
I think it's exactly the same, and it's signposted with yellow, red, white, little signs on the trees or sometime on the side of the road, so you know exactly where you are. You follow the sign. It's a Grande Randonnée type of footpath, so it's very, very well organised and signposted, and you shouldn't get lost. Okay. Earlier on, you were mentioning that there are new cycling routes which are based on old railway lines. That's right. They are called les voies vertes in Brittany. So at the moment, we've got about 8 voies vertes organised. Again, very well signposted, and they are exclusively for the pedestrians and the cycling people. No cars, of course, no motorbikes, and no horses.
Okay, that's interesting. So is there a distinction in France then between a cyclist and a horse rider on paths?
Unfortunately, yes. Because we also have a big, I don't know how you say, a special road for the horses that does 2,000 kilometers in Brittany, but it's a different route. They don't mix, because it can be very dangerous. Okay.
Well, I've certainly been to Brittany myself for a few times, and I've always taken the car, and I've always been, I suppose, using sheets and so on. But the idea of it being a destination for self-powered travellers, people who are walking or cycling, is really beginning to be interesting. Where would people get those details from to find out more about these coastal paths and the paths?
Well, when they arrive in a little village, we have a tourist office. There's a local tourist office in every single place in Brittany. And they can inquire about they can ask for a list of gîtes d'étape, for example, which are really the place ideal for that kind of holiday. They're not very expensive, and you just get a little comfort, just enough, you know. And it's ideal for other walking travellers or cycling travellers.
So the gîte d'étape then is you can book it obviously it's free. If you arrive in a village and it's free, you can book it straight away.
Yes, if they have rooms available, yes, but they have very, very few rooms, so you have to be careful. You know, if it's a high season, can be very full. But yes, you book on the spot. You know, don't have to book before.
Certainly, Brittany is very well known for its range of seafood and crepes. Is that one of the main reasons that people go, or is there a wider range of food than that?
Well, we do have a wide range of food. We can eat a lot of fish as well, because, obviously we're near the coast. But the crêperies are very, very famous in Brittany. We also, in our Brittany Tourist Board, we also have a list of crêperies gourmandes, which are supposed to be very good quality. They have a label, you know, and they are very good. Crêperies gourmandes, and you can get the brochure from us as well. But we also have seafood, and we have a lot of brochures actually on seafood, how to cook them, so if you buy them in the market and you want to cook them in your place, and all the nice places where you can have, again, you know, a wide range of seafood in Brittany. Lobsters and crabs and winkles and prawns, you know.
Excellent. Okay, it's making me hungry now just talking to
yes.
you. France is well known for cheese and wine, of course, as well, but is Brittany, does that have a speciality in that area?
No, unfortunately, we drink the wine, but we don't make it. But we do have we have cheeses as well, but not so many. No, it's not a speciality in Brittany. We have cider.
Oh, well, yes, of course, yes, and that always goes down well with the seafood, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
What about national parks? Are there any areas, sort of central Brittany, which are national parks, and what sort of access do people have in those?
Yes, we have one big national park. It's called the Regional Park of Armorique, and it's right in the middle of Brittany. The further west, in fact. And Well, there are coaches if people can walk or cycle. You can get a coach from the main cities around, not far from Roscoff. If you arrive in Roscoff, Morlaix, you get a coach direct, and you can have a tour of the regional park as well.
And I presume you can't camp in the regional park, you can only camp in sort of recognised places?
Yes, well, you can't camp anywhere, no. You're not allowed to do wild camping. You know.
So what wild camping generally is frowned upon?
Well, it's not allowed. No, you can try, but it's not allowed.
Okay. France is also well known for its infrastructure as regards transport and local transport, trains and buses and so on. So again, if you arrive in one of the well-known ports around Brittany, is it fairly easy to get away from the town fairly quickly?
It's very easy by train, not so easy by bus. If you arrive in Saint-Malo, you get direct train to almost everywhere in Brittany. The same in Roscoff, you get to Morlaix by bus, and then Morlaix is on the line from Paris and Brest, and so it's easier by train than by bus, I think, in Brittany.
So what would you suggest then? So if you're talking to a British hiker, a backpacker, somebody carrying their own tents and camping equipment, and they want to have a long weekend over in Brittany, what would you suggest that they do for a walking break?
Well, if, for example, when you're talking about the regional park of Armorique, well, that's ideal really, for a break for a weekend, because it's very, very interesting. You go to our mountains as well. They're not very high; they're about 300 meters high, but you have a beautiful point of view on most of the Finistère part, which is lovely. Otherwise, you can go on one of those footpaths I was mentioning. It's also called, I didn't say it earlier on, it's also called Sentier des Douaniers, which is the old custom officers' footpath, because it was along the coast, the Coast Guards.
Ah, okay. Oh,
yes.
The coastal path. Oh,
yes,
right.
that's right. That's how it's called.
And how long has that coastal path been open?
Well, 50 years. It's been organised for about 50 years. They celebrated it last year, actually. 50 years of GR 34.
Well, that's one of the things I've never heard about, and I'm really pleased to have met you, and you've told me about that, because that's certainly something that's inspired me. Because it'd be very easy to walk from Roscoff to St Malo or vice versa, and that would be a nice week's break, I think.
Oh, it's more than a week. It's 250 kilometres if you go on the road, but if you go on the public footpath, it will take you more than a week.
And of course, if you want more, the website is www.tourismbretagne.com, and that is tourism, BRETAGNE.com, and there's lots more information on there. So let's round off this podcast with a competition. The very nice people at the Ordnance Survey Outdoors Show have given us 20 pairs of adult tickets to get into the show at the NEC between the 27th and 29th of March. And we're giving away 10 pairs of tickets on this podcast and 10 pairs of tickets on the next podcast. The tickets, of course, are valued at £34 for two adults entries there, so it's a good saving. And so we're going to make this competition very, very complicated, and as follows. What do the letters NEC stand for? What do the letters NEC stand for? If you would please send me the answer to that question, along with your mailing address so we can get the ticket straight out to you, and send it to The Outdoors Show at theoutdoorsStation.co.uk. The Outdoors Show at theoutdoorstation.co.uk, and on the 21st of March we will draw out the 10 winners and get the tickets straight off to you. Well, there's plenty more coming from us at the Outdoors Station. We've got many things that we're trying to put together at the moment. We've got a whole series of shows based on the interviews that we've already recorded and yet to record at the Outdoors Show, of course. And there are a series of videos also in line regarding preparing for the TGO Challenge, which Rose and I will be doing, and probably podcasting again as well, and talking about equipment and gear and so on. So for the people that like video as well as audio, there are other things planned to come from us. However, we've also got to fit in a life as well, so bear with us on that score, and the programmes might come out a little bit sporadically, but they'll be there nonetheless. Anyway, I hope the weather holds for us all, and we can all get out this weekend and enjoy a good break, and we'll catch up with you very soon. Take care now. Bye.
This independent programme is produced and hosted by theoutdoorsStation.co.uk.